Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Neil Howard, here on Health Professional Radio. Thank you so much for joining us for another segment. In this segment, we're going to have a conversation with Dr. Tomasz George. He's joining us here from Virax Biolabs to discuss the development of a proprietary T-cell testing platform, Virax Immune. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. George. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Neil.
Well, tell our listeners a bit about yourself and a bit about your role at Virax Biolabs.
So I'm the Chief Scientific Officer at Virax, and I have a Ph.D. in Ageing and Longevity, a background in novel health testing and app development, regulation, healthcare AI, and medtech. And I'm now working with Virax Biolabs to help develop a test for your immune system that can help indicate how you may respond if you are exposed to a viral threat.
Now, is that a particular endeavor? What is Virax's mission overall?
At Virax Biolabs, our main mission and goal is to protect people from disease. So we've developed a novel test process that can assess your adaptive immune response to viruses, and this helps to do that. And adaptive immunity is built up over a lifetime of exposure to antigens and viruses, vaccines. And if anyone's developed immunity to a virus, they can expect to mount a quick response to that virus if you get infected. And this information on your adaptive immunity is crucial to determine how effectively an individual is going to respond to a virus if they are infected. And it can help inform a person's decisions on personal protection to a specific virus if an outbreak were to occur. And at Virax, we intend to provide a subscription service that will allow for a yearly test for viruses that are most prevalent at that moment in time, allowing for you to determine if you can effectively mount a response to these viruses or not. And our accompanying app is going to provide suggestions on diet and lifestyle modifications that can help reduce your risk for these diseases as well.
In the last few...
And then through...
No, go ahead. No, go ahead with your thought.
I was just going to say there's a couple of other platforms that we have outside of this adaptive immune response testing that look at tests for if you've actually contracted a virus and if you have one right now. And we can do this in a matter of weeks or months, depending on what the virus is. So we developed this PCR test for SARS-CoV-2 during the COVID pandemic. And now we've been able to adapt it very quickly for monkeypox, and we hope to do this for any other outbreaks as they occur.
You say it takes as little as 30 minutes to get a test result with this PCR testing. How advanced does a patient have to be before detection is possible? Is it as soon as you're exposed?
So we've got quite a low limit of detection for this test, which is set at 200 disease particles per mil, and so this is better than or comparable with all other tests on the market, but there is a lag time for actually all of these tests in the beginning. So if you've been exposed to the virus, it's advisable for you to only get tested once you start seeing some sort of symptoms, because then you'll know that the viral load is significant enough for the test to be effective at picking it up. But most people, it takes a few days before you can actually detect whether you've got the virus. And it's the same for most viruses, actually. Once you've contracted them, we need for it to multiply to a certain level within the body that you can actually detect.
Your PCR test, you've talked about that. You also have T-cell testing platforms. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. So this is currently under development, and we're in the process of optimizing this test right now, and it's going to go to clinical trials in the next few months. Mm-hmm. But yes, this test looks at your T-cell responses to a virus. So the way this differs from PCR tests and from antibody tests is your immune system provides short-term and long-term responses to viruses. And a PCR test looks for the presence of a disease in the body at a specific time from the testing of a bodily sample, whether this be in saliva or blood or other bodily fluids. And this can give a result once you're still infected, and can provide you with your disease status at the time, but doesn't provide any information on your state of protection to future infections. Antibody tests can detect if your body's mounted an initial response to a disease, and can help the body protect from that disease. So these antibodies can then be present in the body for months or years after infection, but can wane in their protection over time. And T cells are part of the adaptive immune response, and they're involved with the long-term response to a virus. And they can remain in the body for many, many years after initial infection, providing protection both from the original virus that you're infected with and also similar viruses that they can cross-react with and fight off as well. So it's very important to look at T cell responses to determine if you've developed this long-term adaptive immunity.
Having delved deep into Virax's mission so far, what is on the horizon for Virax Biolabs?
So yeah, our goal is to continue the development of this Virax Immune test to identify how well your adaptive immune system would respond to viruses if you're being exposed to them. And then we are adapting this test for new viruses each year. So the idea is to provide a subscription service that will allow people to test themselves yearly to whichever viruses or variants are more prevalent in the population that year, to see how well your immune system would respond to these viruses. And the benefits of this are providing long-term verification if you've previously contracted a virus that your immune system can respond to. Also, it allows you to see if you'll have a good response to new viral threats or variants each year. And we hope to provide this test to governments and healthcare groups that can use the data from this to predict the impact of an outbreak on a population of a country, and also help guide policy on vaccination, lockdowns, border controls, social distancing, and PPE. And then for pharma companies and clinical research organizations, we want them to be able to use this test to pre-screen potential trial populations for adaptive immunity to a virus that's being studied. So it allows for more optimal selection of control and treatment groups, and decreases the chance of seeing any masking effects of the study due to existing adaptive immune responses in the populations. And so as a whole, we want to provide a lot more information to a user, an end user of our test, as to their adaptive immune responses, so they can make informed decisions for the future on how they want to cope with these viruses and new threats as they arise.
Give us a website where our listeners can learn more about Virax Biolabs, if you would.
Yeah, you can go to viraxbiolabs.com.
Tomasz, I appreciate you joining us here on Health Professional Radio. It's been a great conversation. I'm looking forward to our next.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Really appreciate your time.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Tomasz George. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com, Health Professional Radio.